Hello teacher, my name is Stacy Miriam Garrido Baena, and I would like to start with my project video that is talking about the strategy instruction. In this part, I would like to start with what is the meaning of strategy instruction, which refers to the teaching learners about learning strategies. And in this part, also strategy instruction can be referred as learner training or strategy training. According to the reading, it says that the process involved in learning is invisible. So for that, for students, for teachers, sorry, it's difficult to evaluate it and train it. However, there are some strategies that are active in the learning process and which are more visible to teaching and training. And in this part, we have that the purpose for the strategy instruction is that we as teachers we have to create our students to become more autonomous, more responsible about their own learning, and also they have to become like an active learners. So we as teachers have to guide them in order to help them to know some strategies to learn the how to learn, and they have to start developing these strategies, and they have to become conscious about them in order to get them to acquire them and to apply it when they are so necessary. In the next one, we have here that success is closely linked to motivation. And in this part, we have that teachers have the influence in motivation of learners, and this influence can be so directly by making strategy instruction effective. For students, it is necessary to develop self-control over a strategy and use it combined with metacognitive awareness or conscious. For this one, as we can see in this picture, we can mention that the goal of strategy training is to teach our students why, when, and how they have to use instruction strategies, strategy instructions that in order to facilitate their own learning. So they have to learn these strategies to facilitate their process of learning, and how they have to acquire these strategies or have to apply them by exploring ways of learning. Um, Also, we have that instruction and strategy instructions can help learners in 4 different ways. In the number one, we have that the learners become more aware of the strategies which they already use, and also in this part they apply task specific strategies which help overcome some limitations. And we have that students can monitor the effectiveness of the strategies that they are using in the process of learning, and so for that they create new strategies or forget ineffective ones consciously and critically, so they become like a conscious and active student in order to uh, know what kind of learning strategies are useful for what kind of activities, and which one are not so useful to achieve some different activities. However, the methodology has been criticized into different ways. Another one, it says that instruction that try to teach learners strategies cannot help a lot, because sometimes students don't have the linguistic competence to use the strategy effective, so they are unable to use a second language strategy effectively because of the lack of second language proficiency. So when they don't have enough background, they are not so able to use these activities or these strategies. By the other hand, we have that some studies show that the strategy instruction to be not useful. Why? Because as we know, in the process of learning, there are a lot of factors that are influencing this process, and they can facilitate or complicate the implementation of learner training. So, what kind of factors we are talking about? It refers like cultural differences, age, educational background, and also students and teacher beliefs about the process of learning. Sorry. In this part, in this picture, we can see that an effective learners are those who has or who use some strategies, a lot of strategies. They have a repertoire of these strategies in order to apply them according to the different tasks that they have to achieve. And also, they can combine some strategies to have a good results. So that is the main point for an effective learner. We have in this part that making strategy instruction effective involves that a student discover and discuss strategies. He or she has to present new strategies by naming and describing. Maybe we can get some work, their work, or some like small teams where students can discuss how they achieve to the task, to the goal of the task. How did they, or what did they do in order to answer the task and to get the correct answers, no? So in this part, students have to modeling the strategies, and also they have to explaining when and when they can be used, these strategies can be used. Also, to be more effective in this process, students have to provide extensive practice with these activities, with these strategies. In this picture, it is possible to see that there is a teacher and we have some students. Why is the main point of this picture? Because we as teachers, we have the responsibility with our students to explain them and modeling them the strategies that they can use in order to learn better. And we as teachers have to provide them with a lot of examples and a lot of practicing of these strategies, a lot of situations that can help them to apply these strategies. Why? Because by the practice, students gradually increase their responsibility and they can become autonomous students. According to the reading, we have that study instruction material. There are a lot of study instruction materials that exist in a variety of forms. The first one, that is the most common, we have the course books, which include sections with supposedly developed learning strategies for students. And the other hand, by the second one, we have the learn and training books. In this kind of books, it says that it provides students with alternative from which to make informed choices about what, how, why, when, and where they learn. And also, it provides activities to encourage learners to reflect on their own strategy use. The last one, it says that is the self-directed strategy instruction materials, and these materials are used by students that want to work alone. In this part, we have two different kind of materials, which refers to the first one, that is printed books, and they can be like books, like some worksheets or things that can be managed by the students and to learn. And also it refers to the multimedia strategy instruction programs that can be like platforms in the computer, or can be some apps in the cell phone that can help the students to learn and to improve their level. It is also mentioned that there are cognitive strategies and metacognitive strategies. In the cognitive strategies, it refers that students interact with the material to be learned. They manipulate the material mentally or physically, and they apply specific techniques to a learning task. By the other hand, in the metacognitive strategies, we we said that the student have to think about the learning process, and he has to plan the learning. Also, he has to monitor the learning task, and evaluate themselves how well done they be as a learner. And also they have to have knowledge about the learning, control, and evaluation over the learning. For metacognitive strategies, which refers to the regulation of learning, for students there are seven different steps that they have to follow in order to achieve metacognitive strategies. And then we have that is planning, directed attention, selective attention, self management, self monitoring, problem identification, and self evaluation. It is also mentioned that teachers and strategy instruction has something to be related, and the strategy instruction is necessary and beneficial for learners, and also it can be applied with a variety of materials that can help the teachers to be an easier job. Why is necessary for teachers to understand the learning process? Because they have to think how their students are learning. So they have to become like learners' eyes. And that can help teachers to change their teaching strategies according to the needs of their students. And also it can help them to change the conception of how learning occurs, and that influence the kind of strategies that teachers applied in the class. We have also that teachers belief affects the difficulty level in task. For example, if the teacher says that the task is not so difficult, he cannot help students in the students learning. Or if the teacher thinks that the activity is so difficult, he is going to help their students. So for that, there is a big impact in students learning and achievements. According to the reading, there are three different types of teachers. The number one that is the best is the teacher assimilators, which is the teacher who uses multiple and multisensory strategies. He or she asks students to explain the strategies that they have used in their activities, and for that, also he or she ask their students to analyze how they help or not in the task. So students become, or the teacher helps students to become more consciousness about their learning process. We have the second one that is the middle grounders, which refers that the teachers that are unable to effectively integrate the instruction strategy instruction into their existing practice, and they still taught with a modularized approach. The last one that is the resistors, or also we can now name that like old-fashioned teachers, are all the teachers that are stuck in the transmission mode of teaching. And in this part, these kind of teachers are unable to let go of a transmission model of teaching. They won't like to try with new methodologies or to change their teaching methodology. Almost to finish, we have here 6 different qualities of a great teacher, or as it is mentioned in the reading, the change agent. We have the diagnostician, which is the teacher who has to identify students' strategies that they can need or they develop by the learning process. We have the learner training, which refers to the teachers that train the learners in the use of strategies. We have also the coach, which refers to the teachers that work with individual learners to develop their language learning strategies. We have the coordinator, which refers to the teachers that oversee the individual learners' study program, and they support changes in direction of the necessity for their students. We have the language learner, which is like a role for the teacher when he or she becomes like an also the learner, no? So it's not a relationship between teacher and student. It is a relationship relationship between learner, and they start working in that part, and they start developing some strategies in order to achieve the goals. And also we have the researcher, who is the teacher that can research his or her performance in all the other roles. Well, teacher, that's all for me. Thank you very much. And in this part, I have some references that I used in order to accomplish this task. Thank you very much, teacher. Bye.